Welcome to this edition of Diligence Inside America's Boardrooms. I'm TK Kerstetter, and I'll be your host for today's show. Today, we are going to talk about recruiting new directors in a virtual corporate environment. And joining me is somebody that's very familiar with recruiting directors. Welcome, Julie Daum, who's the North American Board Practice Leader for Spencer Stuart, and often a guest on the show. Welcome back, Julie.
Thank you very much for having me, TK.
So I am guessing that COVID might have affected the pace of board turnover and succession a little, but as they say, the show must go on. So there's board positions to fill. Some boards are doing refreshment. And with all the country's social unrest and attention on racial inequality, I was wondering, are you seeing an uptick in the diverse board member requests from nominating committees?
I would say that is definitely the case. If I had to put a number on it, I'd say probably 90% of the board searches we're doing right now have a diversity component to it. And not just last year when we talked about diversity, there was recruiting for women, and then there was diversity, and diversity was broadly defined. I think the institutional investors wanted to see people who didn't look the same, but it wasn't specific. This year, it's very specific. And I would say for most of our clients, they are very interested in bringing in a Black director into the room. So, and as I said, if I had to guess, it's 90%. It is something that is top of mind to every board and to every CEO who's very interested in showing the people who work in that company and customers that this is very important to them.
Yeah, we sort of see the pressure from the institutional investors. I know BlackRock and State Street have been very vocal about to boards that, and I'm not sure on the proxy advisors whether they are, again, in their little rating system, going to ding companies. But it seems like, we've felt this pressure before, but never at this level.
No, and it's what I see right now is that there is pressure from the institutional investors. And for example, the state of California has just put in something where you have to have a diverse director. But their description of diversity is broader than what we see our clients looking for. So they are looking for underrepresented minorities. They consider somebody who is LGBT diverse. As I said, I think our clients are really pretty narrow in their definition of what they're looking for right now. And again, I think it's in response. It's a response to the institutional investors, but it's really more in response to their own employees and their customers, that they want to make a statement that this is indeed important to this board and to this company. So I think everybody, for whatever reason, whether they're feeling pressure or whether they're doing it because they genuinely believe it's the right thing, people are coming together around this, and it is the topic in the boardroom right now.
Yeah, I just finished a series on this show where I looked at the specific groups of Black and African American, Latino, Hispanic, and also Asian and Islander. And it was really interesting. It was interesting when I was doing the research on the numbers too, especially in the Hispanic area. The Hispanic is so underrepresented, even compared to the African American, knowing that it's the largest racial segment of the U.S. Again, I think that they've done the Latin Corporate Directors Group has done a very good job of trying to ramp that up. And
right.
Diligence started its minority data program. And so I think everything's getting ramped up at this point. So let me ask you another question. Let me switch gears a little bit. So I understand that the conversations that you're having on that would be, around race. But how about any other special conversations recently that you've had with nominating committees? And when I say that, I mean age or some other factor other than race.
I think COVID pointed out a couple of things. I think it pointed out the need for directors who do have deep governance experience and operating experience, who've been around and seen a lot. But it also pointed out that change can occur very quickly and changing business models. And so you see this need for people on the board who have technology experience, who have digital experience, and who are current, who are working today and are going to stay current. So there needs to be a balance in the boardroom of wise directors, but also people who are, living in the world that exists and are going to be living in it tomorrow and next year and the year after, because businesses have gone through a transformation. They're going to continue to, and it's been proven that it can happen very quickly. So it's it's going to continue to have this rapid change. And so having different skill sets in the boardroom is, everyone has always talked about it, but it is absolutely clear that it's imperative if you're going to be able to respond to what's happening.
So you and I have always talked about the slowness, if you will, of turnover, and that it's hard to change numbers significantly. So has COVID slowed down turnover? Has it picked it up, or no change?
It's really interesting. There's been no change if you look at the numbers. Last year, a half of the boards who added a woman. So last year, the real pressure was to add a woman or another woman. Half of the boards who did that went up one in size. So they didn't have turnover. They added a director. So now this year they have pressure to add a diverse director. Does that mean they go up again in size? And most boards don't really want to do that. But if you look at our retirement age of 75 is customary, and you look at the amount of people who are hitting 65, it does not allow for the kind of turnover that needs to happen to bring these new directors in. So so there's no difference in turnover, but yet there is a demand for new directors who look different and who have different skills. So I think that this is going to create some conversation in the boardroom. You can go up one director, but you're not going to go up two directors. It changes the chemistry, it changes the ability for directors to have real conversations. So, but yet, there's no real turnover, no change in turnover on the horizon if we continue to use 75 as the marker for when people leave. So I think this will be a conversation that boards are going to have to start having, is this notion of, if we're in a world that's fast changing, can we continue with this, with turnover, one new seat every couple of years? Or are we going to have harder conversations about what do we need now, and do we have it, and are there directors who have been enormously valuable, but their skill set is no longer as relevant given the change in our strategy or this change in the world? So we've all talked about this for a long time. How do you increase turnover? But I think what's happened with having to add diverse directors is changing a bit of that conversation.
Yeah. I have talked to boards that have added an additional seat, but plan on retirement to pull that seat back to get back to their original number. So, I mean, there's certainly the ability to do that without a whole lot of hassle. So Julie had mentioned the diverse boards and the look for digital natives, all of which, before the gender thing came real strong, that was the issue: digital transformation and finding those skills. So This whole COVID thing, though, has on recruiting new directors has had to have a very interesting impact on your business because you can't do face to face anymore. So, talk a little bit about how companies and search committees and firms like yourselves and even the candidates, how has this process changed when you can't be face to face and you have to do everything virtually?
So it's in the beginning, everybody said you cannot bring a director on who you have not met in person. We just can't do it. And then it became so then people said, well, we can start the process, but we can't finish the process. And now people are finding it's working very well. And so most boards have decided to go through and conduct all of the meetings virtually. It has some positive impacts and then some things to think about. It makes the process much faster. You know, if you're just trying to schedule a Zoom call with somebody, it is much
Right.
easier than having to plan a meeting of the whole committee in Atlanta and bring the candidates in. You know, so it's much easier to do it. So it's timely, and generally people are involving more people in the process because again it's easier to do, so they're offering the board the opportunity, if you want to meet this candidate even if you're not on the nom-gov committee, you know, the opportunity to do that. So they move quickly. I think there is a heightened interest in referencing and, you know, really making sure that you talk to people who have worked with this person before and this director before. We've always done that, but we're seeing a lot of clients also want to get engaged in the referencing process because again, they're a little bit nervous that they haven't met the person, so they want a little bit more collaboration, that their feelings about them are correct, so there's more referencing. I think the other thing, though, that the negative of this is, is the obvious, is that it's hard to join a board when you've never met anybody and it's a virtual meeting. And so for boards to be very conscious about how do you bring somebody in and how do you make sure that each director gets to know them, that the person gets to know the management team. So there should be more uh, calls and meetings in between board meetings so that the person begins to feel comfortable and feel like they know some of the directors. So there is more thought that needs to go into the onboarding process.
But you're the first line of the vetting process with these people. So you're the one that has to, I would think, has the challenge of that first call with candidates to try and decipher, is this the right candidate for this position? So that has to be unique to you and your firm as well.
And that's true because many of the directors that we're talking to, and this has been true for several years, have never served on a board before. So you're really assessing somebody who's obviously been very successful in their career, but you're trying to assess whether they have the qualities that it takes to be a good director versus what it takes to be a good manager of a business. And those things can be different. Some are the same, but some are different. So it is true that we are always trying to assess for those innate qualities that make a good director. And it's why we do more referencing, because you can ask a lot of questions to help get you there, but it's very helpful to speak to people who've worked with this person. And although not in a boardroom, because they're new, they haven't been in a boardroom, but have worked with them in different situations. So there is more assessment that goes into this process when you're looking at a brand new director versus somebody who's got years of board experience.
Well, what will be interesting when we get to whatever this new normal is that you now have more tools, and the board does, because they're going to feel more comfortable that you may be able to do some meetings virtually and then some meetings face to face. Maybe that final meeting face to face, or
Right.
whatever. But I think you're right that it will probably expedite ability to move things on faster because people will have grown at least somewhat comfortable with this virtual environment.
Yeah. Things are moving faster.
Yeah.
And everybody's getting comfortable with it. We're on Zoom all day long, right? So
Yeah.
what seemed odd 6 months ago doesn't seem so odd anymore.
Well, I admit, even in this, it's much easier to get guests, but I do have to say that I miss the face-to-face
Yes.
quite a bit. But well, Julie, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us. And again, I wish you luck and hope that this vaccine will again give you at least a wide array of tools so that you can still meet people face to face.
I think we all miss the face-to-face, and I know the boards miss being together.
Yeah. Okay, well, that will conclude this edition of Inside America's Boardrooms. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back again next week when we take another look at a critical topic that'll help you be a better board member or committee member. So we'll see you then.